Today's class on Gokhale's Bill on Primary Education. We shall study the provision of Gokhale's Bill, discussion on the bill, impact on society, important clauses of the bill, reasons for rejection of the bill, impact of Gokhale's Bill on Primary Education. After Curzon's policy of education, the next stage in the field of education was dominated by the demand of primary education. The nationalists gradually came to realize that there would be no real progress in the country so long as the teeming millions remained illiterate. Gokhale, the veteran nationalist leader of India, realized the inherent utility of compulsory education and submitted a private bill to the Imperial Legislative Council on 18th March 1910. The provisions of the Gokhale's Bill. An act should be passed authorizing the local bodies to take initiative in the matter and with the sanction of government to introduce free and compulsory education as soon as suitable background is prepared. Compulsion should be made in the case of boys only in the instance, and it should be extended to girls. Discussion on the bill. When the bill was first introduced, the motion was withdrawn as the government promised to treat the matter sympathetically. But nothing was done seriously by the government. Mr. Gokhale once again introduced the bill in 1911 in the Imperial Legislative Council for making better provision for extension of elementary education. This time the bill came up for discussion in the council. Impact on society. Gokhale's fight was a heroic fight, and it did not go in vain. It is true that Gokhale failed in his endeavor, but he earned the right to be considered as the father of the compulsory education movement of India. The seeds sown by him came up quickly for harvest. Primary education got a greater impetus when King Emperor George V visited India in 1911 and 12. In the Delhi Darbar, George V proclaimed that it is my wish that there may be spread over the land a network of schools and colleges. As a result of his attempt, most of the educated people in India began to realize the necessity of free and compulsory education. Gokhale presented a bill in the Legislative Council to make a stronger fight against the government. The bill, however, was more liberal and humble than the resolutions placed before. The main objective of the bill was to make primary education free and compulsory in a phased manner. The bill was basically based on the Compulsory Education Acts of England of 1870 and 1876. Important clauses of the bill. Compulsory primary education should be introduced in those areas where a certain percentage of boys and girls of school age 6 to 10 was already receiving instructions. The percentage of attendance should be fixed by the Governor General in the Council. It should be left to the discretion of local bodies whether to apply the Act to certain areas under their jurisdiction or not. Local bodies should be given the right to levy educational cess to meet the cost of compulsory primary education. Expenditure on education was to be shared by the local bodies and provincial government in the ratio of 1:2. For the introduction of compulsion, the previous sanction of the Viceroy and the Governor respectively were necessary. Compulsory primary education is intended to apply in the first instance only to boys, though later on the local body may extend it to girls also. Guardians whose income is less than rupees 10 per month should not be asked to pay any fee for their votes. Gokhale's bill of 1911 was referred to a select committee of 15 members for examination. The bill was also sent to the state governments, the universities, and local education authorities for inviting opinion on it. The bill was taken up for discussion in Legislative Council on 17th March 1912. The bill was debated for 2 days, March 18 and 19 in 1912. Gokhale had raised powerful arguments in support of the bill, but the government was not ready to accept the bill, and it was put to vote and was defeated by 35 votes to 13. This did not come as a surprise to Gokhale. He had anticipated the result correctly, and earlier in the debate had already expressed the result of the voting in the following majestic words: "My Lord, I know that my bill will be thrown out before the day closes. I make no complaint. I shall not even feel depressed. We, the present generation of India, can only hope to serve our country by our failures. The men and women who will be privileged to serve her by their successes will come later." Thus, the bill, though defeated, but it was a heroic defeat. Reasons for rejection of the bill. Now we know the main clauses of the bill and how the first move for introducing compulsory primary education in our country was defeated. But we have observed that the defeat was a heroic defeat, and with this we must also understand the reasons put forward by the government for the rejection of the bill. The government put forth several arguments, and they were the following. There was no popular demand for introducing compulsory primary education in the country. As such, the people of the country were not prepared to accept compulsion. The local governments were not in favor of it. The local bodies were not willing to levy educational dues. A sanction of the educated Indians were not supporting the bill. There was still scope for extension of primary education on voluntary lines based on the system of grants in aid. Impact of Gokhale's bill on primary education. Gokhale's bill, the first ever attempt to introduce free and compulsory primary education in our country, is a landmark in the history of education in India. Although the bill was rejected, it focused the attention of the entire country on education. The government could not entirely ignore the growing popular demand for the spread of mass education. Fortunately, King George V came to India in 1912 and declared a donation of 50 lakh rupees for the development of education in India. When he came to know about Gokhale's bill, he expressed his dissatisfaction for rejecting the bill. As a result, the government had to modify the previous policy and declared a new policy with several reforms. Gokhale's bill created a flutter in the British Parliament also. In the course of the discussion on the Indian budget, the Under Secretary of State for India admitted the need for paying more attention to Indian education. The government of India passed the resolution on educational policy on February 21, 1913. Between 1910 and 1917, there was an unprecedented expansion of primary education on a voluntary basis. The outbreak of the First World War, however, delayed the development planned in the resolution. It brought its train many disasters, but also a promise of political reform culminating in the Government of India Act 1919, which incidentally stimulated interest in education. Before that, some administrative changes in the policy of government had been accepted. In 1917, the policy of autonomous administration was declared by the Secretary of State for India, Edwin Montague. The provincial government formed in different states had felt the necessity of primary education. In 1918, Bethalbhai Patel had for the first time raised the bill for making primary education compulsory in the province of Bombay, and the bill passed to an act. Similar acts were passed in Bengal, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and Orissa. Madras and Central Province passed their acts in 1920. Assam, Compulsory Primary Education Act was passed in 1926. Thus, all these were the outcome of Gokhale's attempt to make primary education compulsory in India. His struggle for compulsion formed an important part of country's struggle of independence during British rule. Some of the assignments for you. Thank you. God bless you.